Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished and senior professional from Trinidad and Tobago, Cavelle Joseph St. Omer. Cavelle, welcome to the show.
Ash, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, of course, for the opportunity to chat with you and to, of course, be introduced to your audience as well, too, and the audience for me personally.
Thank you. Cavelle is the president of HRMATT. I hope I've got the pronunciation right. She is the president of the Caribbean Institute of Human Resource Management. And given the amazing work that she's done, she has been recognized, awarded, and felicitated several times. So, Cavelle, before we talk human resources, tell me about your journey that led you to become a globally recognized HR executive.
Well, my journey started many years ago, fresh out of university, and working very early in my family's business and recognizing in the construction sector back then, because this is more than 2 decades ago, HR was in practice the way it's practiced today. And the head of that organization, being my dad, he was HR, finance, head of construction, everything. That's how family businesses tend to be.
Yeah.
And recognizing that, and I mean, back then I was pursuing law back then, and my intentions was to become a lawyer. And working through that business and recognizing the gaps between management and the employees and facilitating that process, accidentally, my passion for love for HR and all things HR began back then. So I, of course, abruptly ended my pursuits as it relates to law. And then I got my master's in HR. So I do have a bachelor's in economics and law originally, and then a master's specializing in HR and MBA. And of course, some other certification and diplomas along the way to help strengthen my skills as a practitioner over the years. Since leaving the family business, I've worked in several state entities, starting off in local government and working specifically in local government reform. I was the HR specialist attached to that unit. And then moving on to a number of project management companies. For some reason, I always found myself in construction, for one reason or the other. And now I'm here with one of the largest project management firms in Trinidad and Tobago, employed as the divisional manager for human resources, with responsibility not only for HR, but for information systems, office administration, and records management as well.
Wow, what an amazing journey. So my first question relating to HR for you, Cavelle, is what are some of the critical skills needed for HR professionals today, and how can they develop these skills?
Well, I mean, we do have a need for basic things like strong communication skills. And I say basic because HR professionals at the very basic level need to be able to communicate in all forms. Because we interact so much with people, it's important for us to have a command of good listening skills, good writing skills, and the ability to communicate and reach people. Solid administrative skills is as basic as it gets. But we also get into the strategic realm. So we need to be good at strategic planning and execution. So it's not only about creating plans, but also being able to implement and execute, being able to manage several priorities, being an advisor. So we must have the skills where through our own experience and training, we could provide advice, we could coach, we could also mentor. It's all very specific skills. And certainly a command for technology. As we enter into the current, this current time in world history, we know having a command for technology and being analytical and data-driven has become a skill that HR practitioners must have, and cultural awareness and sensitivity, mainly because of what we see again happening in the world with migration, forced, unplanned, and then of course there's deliberate migration. You see, the world is a melting pot of people from all different backgrounds and experiences. And HR practitioners today must be culturally aware and sensitive to that, and also be an advocate for well-being, almost like an evangelist, especially coming out of COVID and the experiences we had there. We recognize health and wellness in the workplace is now an issue. and therefore being an advocate for that mental health and well-being. And finally, I will say a strong sense of ethics and data privacy. So in as much as we agree that people analytics and data is important, we must also understand the ethical considerations and the necessity for data privacy as well. So those are some of the things, in addition to many more, I could chat about.
But what a great response. Thank you. And what are some of the misconceptions that about HR that you encounter when you work with large companies? And how do you address some of these?
Well, I mean, I hear people say all the time that HR is about the people and HR is an advocate for the people. And while that is part of what we do, it's a lot more than that. And HR is actually a science. It's a social science. We are also called upon to be very strategic as well, and also have a deep understanding of the operations of the business so that we can now basically provide advice and balanced solutions in the interest of the organization and the people. Naturally, if you're working with the organization's interests at hand, it should redound to the people in terms of the success, the benefits of that. So yes, there is an element of being the gatekeeper and employee advocate to some extent, but we're also business leaders and strategic thinkers and implementers in the workspace as well. So I think that much needs to be said, in terms of people's idea of what HR is. And you often hear in the Caribbean setting, they say, oh, you always just hire and fire. No, it's a lot more than that.
Absolutely. But you're so right. When I started my work in 1979, which is 45 years ago, HR used to be more of personnel manager and where there was a factory industrial relations. Today, it's become a very strategic role as a part of the C-suite. So I wanted to ask you, can you talk a little bit about the role of HR in strategic planning and decision-making at the C-suite level?
Well, in my role as president of HRMATT, we've been advocating for HR to have its space at the executive level. And more so in today's very dynamic and business environment, organizations must navigate the very complex nature and challenges that we now face to make strategic decisions and, of course, to drive growth and success. So while other departments contribute to that process, the role of HR in strategic decision-making is sometimes overlooked and it's only thought of after. So I was chatting with a colleague recently, and their organization recently had a merger, and they're now thinking of the HR implications for that, not understanding that HR had a pivotal role at the beginning in aligning the company's strategic decisions along with the human capital strategy for supporting it as well, in terms of ensuring the long-term sustainability of businesses, fostering a culture of innovation, fostering a culture that allows for change management and agility in the workspace. I think is important for everyone to understand HR's role in strategic decision-making. And we belong at the table when those conversations are happening, not after. It shouldn't be an afterthought. In fact, Accenture did a survey some years ago, and the CEOs who participated in that survey, 80% of them agreed that their chief HR officer should have a leading role in the long-term planning and driving profitability and growth of their businesses. They recognize that effective HR strategies is a non-negotiable position in order to implement their overall strategic business plans. So we cannot discount the role of HR, whether it's workforce planning, whether it's performance management, whether it's the data you need with mergers and acquisitions, for example. You have to have data on both sides of the fence in terms of the both organizations that are coming together. You must be able to determine what talent there is and how it could be further utilized or retained in the overall interest for the success of the new entity that is being created. Leadership development, all those things. So it's a lot more than people recognize and probably give credit as well to the function.
Well said. And how do you approach the challenge of balancing big picture thinking at the C-suite level with the hands-on execution that is also needed in HR?
Well, that's a personal challenge and struggle for me, I have to admit, because I'm very much big picture. In my mind, I see everything big, and I need people around me who can bring me down to earth sometimes. So that's why how we basically have teams, how we get people together. You look for people with different skills. So big picture thinking is good. Someone who could have the long-term vision, who could have a sense of what we should look like 5-10 years from now, and what is required to get us there. But you do need the hands-on persons now to connect the dots between the big picture and the big vision, and how we operationalize that over time as well too. And therefore, I surround myself with people who could balance that aspect of me, because we all don't have the perfect fit for anything, but you have to surround yourself with people who would help you in executing that. So my approach would always be to ensure that within any team that I'm a part of, that I have persons around me who are skilled and competent to help with the execution part, because I'm quite clear in terms of how things should look, what it should be, and operating at that level, the strategic level, but you do need effective executioners around you. So yeah, that's the beauty of teamwork in any event. Yeah, getting the right skills on board. Yeah.
Great response. The other aspect, Cavelle, that I've been seeing and speaking to many people, and we referred to this very briefly a few minutes back, is technology. HR is now using artificial intelligence, all kinds of technology to be able to manage people and predict the kind of skill sets that may be needed. I wanted to get your perspective on how does HR technology play a role in building HR infrastructure?
Well, in the midst of everything I've done over the years, I've come to the realization that there's a fundamental issue with how many organizations really view how they leverage that technology, and especially HR technology. Even the most forward-thinking HR function or organization that has solid HR, we often fail to miss the point and the value of HR technology, and seeing it sometimes not, or I should say seeing it more than a means to an end, but leveraging it to accomplish tasks, to achieve more in a shorter space of time, and certainly having it connected to the rest of the organization as well, more enterprise wide rather than just being standalone, understanding systems thinking and the fact that we are all interconnected, and how we could pull data from different parts of the organization to understand workflows, to understand processes, to understand how we do business, and that aggregated collection of data and those individual pieces coming together could create a highly connected environment, technology environment, that will allow for information to be used to make the organization more effective and efficient. So to me, the first step is really understanding how HR and how HR technology works in the workspace, in the work environment, and how we not only support the community that we're part of, that ecosystem that we're part of, but how current technology could be leveraged, and the need for HR, again, to be a fundamental part of that, whether it's through simplifying the recruitment process, for example, so that we identify better candidates, a better fit for our organization, whether we use technology for onboarding and for motivating our new hires, recognizing that through automated processes, especially for companies that are multinational in nature, we could have an experience that is still unified, although we operate in different parts of the world. Centralizing information and how we, again, manage the employee experience in our organization, and using technology to help us with that, modernizing our performance management system. So even if I'm responsible for a team and that team is working remotely, we could still meet and have that review on a frequent basis as well too. Promoting development opportunities, and we recognize, especially coming out of COVID, that online learning and methodologies for online learning is a lot more acceptable than before. And even some of the Ivy League schools have now switched to providing courses and programs online when that was frowned upon at one point in time. So it's again an appreciation and understanding for those things. And finally, I would say, through technology, we can engage in valuable employee engagement surveys. We could get a sense directly in terms of going directly to our employees through surveys to get a sense of how they feel, how we could use data captured from them to make a better work experience, or to at least shape a positive work experience for them as well too. So technology is definitely something key for us to become experts at, and that we could utilize and leverage to make us more effective as practitioners.
Well said, well said. The other aspect of HR, and I know this is more the responsibility of the board, is diversity and inclusion. I'd love to get your perspective on what strategies do you employ to ensure diversity and inclusion in the companies or businesses you have worked in.
Well, I'm certainly an advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, for people to feel like they belong in our workspace. For us, in my organization and in the other organizations that I function at, from a volunteer perspective, we do value workplace diversity and inclusion and see the benefits of it. And it's simple things, using inclusive language. In Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean as a whole, we're very much multicultural, multifaceted, given our own history and how the people got to this part of the world. So it's very diverse in of itself. So the language we use, it's important so that people feel a sense of belonging. Challenging unconscious biases as well. Often you see it, and HR actually has what we'd say front view, a full view of it.
Yeah.
But when we sit in interviews and you hear the comments of the people in the room, I've sat in interviews and I've heard CEOs and managers say all sorts of things about candidates, from commenting on how they look physically, commenting on how they speak, commenting on their size, right? So it's really challenging those biases, and we're in a position to do it. Educating our leadership. So you sit in an interview. I sat in an interview years ago, and the CEO then asked the young lady before if she intended to have children and if she intended to get married. All these questions are very much inappropriate. So educating the leaders is important. Using those UN calendar dates. I mean, we use it quite effectively here to provide an opportunity to bring information to the organization. Mentoring and having mentorship programs in the organization, using cultural events. Again, this part of the world, we're big on culture, and using those opportunities, whether it's Diwali, whether it's emancipation, whatever it may be, to create that understanding and acceptance for different cultures and religious beliefs and practices. A diversity training, that's very specific as well too, where we zero in, and especially when we see that we have issues, and depending on the number of grievances and reports and whistleblowing complaints you receive, you will know whether or not you have an issue in your organization. And it may require some level of diversity training for your team, and certainly trying to remind everyone of your organization's core values. Sometimes we have these things pinned up on a wall, on a nice plaque somewhere, and we don't actually live those values.
Correct.
So you see things like teamwork and integrity and all these nice words, but how do we bring that to life in terms of our behaviors and the norms and practices in the organization? So our goal always is to create an environment where everyone feels accepted and welcome. And even if it means being very deliberate about it. So we do have, for example, I'll use an example, an internship program that we offer every summer to our university students and students who are at A-levels. And we utilize that program to provide, an introduction into the world of work. And we've been very deliberate as an organization to incorporate persons with disabilities, to incorporate persons who live in communities, in rural communities, persons who live in areas that may not be, socially acceptable by some people because of their economic means or the stigma associated with a particular area that you live in. You make sure that no matter what, that we treat people based on whether they qualify to do the work, whether or not they actually enrolled in university on a program that could be useful. They have the skills and that could translate into the workspace. Make sure the environment is such that throughout everything that you do, everyone has an equal chance of participating. And we are very deliberate about that at the association levels, HRMATT and even HRMATT. We've done a lot in terms of encouraging the conversation, even across the Caribbean, participating in panel conversations, promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion as a way we should live. It's really the way for organizations to really, in fact, to really prosper as an organization. Having people from diverse backgrounds certainly there's a strong business case for it as well too. So even if your bosses out there, there are CEOs out there who don't believe in what you're saying, you could prove it from a business perspective, how it benefits your company as well, all the same. But we've been championing it at different levels, ensure that, again, our leaders understand this is not just a buzzword, but it's actually a way of living. So these are some of the, the ways that we could definitely.
So time for one more question for you, Cavelle, and this question is now for you personally. Reflecting on your amazing career in the world of human resources and the fact that you are so well recognized globally, what are you most proud of, and what legacy do you hope to leave in the field of human resources?
I mean, I've had some proud moments indeed, even from your home country, India, where I was recognized by the World HRD Congress in Mumbai in 2016. But for me personally, and really what moves me and what I'm most proud of is the impact I've been able to make on persons who know me and who are connected to me at an individual level. So in my organization and in any organization that I've been a part of, my goal has always been to leave people better than I've met them. So certainly providing opportunities for growth, for development, for progress, for personal progress. I've seen that. I've seen lives change. I've seen people move on and become very successful and continue to stay connected to some of those people as well. And that is what I'm most proud of. I feel like a proud mom. I mean, I don't have children of my own, but I do mentor a lot of people out there individually, not part of any big mentorship group. And I've seen them grow and develop and lead in leadership roles in some instances. And I'm most proud of that. So yes, the awards and accolades are good, but it's really the impact and the difference you make in a person's life, to me, is what matters the most. And that is what I hope would be my legacy, that even when I'm not here anymore, that there'll be stories about me, people will be laughing and remembering me fondly. And that to me is where the impact really is.
Wow. What a powerful comment to end with, which is leave people better than when you met them. Cavelle, on that note, thank you so much for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for talking to us about how you chose to become a professional, even though you came out of a well-established family business. Thank you for talking to me about so many different aspects of human resources, how technology is being used, how, what are some of the critical skills that HR professionals need. Thank you also for speaking to me about, in depth, I thought, your thoughts on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Ash, for having me. I do feel honored and privileged to be a part of your program, and best of luck to you and in helping you identify candidates and Caribbean stories and practitioners. I certainly would love the opportunity to so do as well, because there are many more amazing people besides myself. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.